Hey everybody, welcome back to another CMAC tutorial. Today we're talking about our most popular camera, the Sony X70. In specific, we'll be going over manual exposure as well as the controls for manual operation of this camera. Stay tuned. So when set to manual, the Sony X70 has a few controls that I want to go over. Shutter speed, iris or aperture, gain/ISO, and neutral density filters, or ND. The first thing we need to do is turn on the manual operation of the exposure settings. The switch for that is right here on the back of the body. I also would like to turn on the histogram to be displayed on the LCD screen. This is going to help me make sure my exposure is set properly. To do that, we hit the menu button, use this lever on the back to navigate down to the display set menu. Toggle right, and then select histogram. Select on, then click the lever. Hit menu to come back out. A general way of using this histogram is if the mountain of information is too far left, the image is underexposed, or too dark. The mountain of information is too far on the right, it is overexposed or too bright. You want your mountain to be right in the center of the histogram for a balanced image. There may be artistic reasons why you'd want a bright or dark image, but generally you want it right in the middle. The first thing I want to mention is even though we have 3 physical buttons for iris, gain, and shutter speed, you will control all of them with this dial in the front. When you select the button for iris, it will put your f-stop in this white box. Aperture, f-stop, is the size of the opening inside your lens through which light passes. We control how much light comes into the lens by opening or closing the iris. This is how we get the number value. This number is inversely related, which means the lower the number, the more light coming in and the more shallow the depth of field will be. The higher the number, the less the light will be coming in through the lens, or the darker the image will appear, as well as it will give us a wider depth of field. The gain button boosts the overall signal of light and is displayed as a decibel or a dB. The higher the number, the brighter the image. But like sound, if you take the gain all the way up, you have noise or grain in your image. This is also sometimes referred to as ISO. ISO, or gain, refers to the sensitivity of the image sensor in your camera to light. Increasing gain increases image noise or grain. Increasing ISO will have the same result. Next is shutter speed. Shutter speed affects how much motion blur is in each frame of your video. If you want your motion blur to look normal, you should take your frame rate and double it. So 30 frames per second, a normal shutter speed would be 1/60th. On our screen, the values are expressed without the 1 over the number. Some other examples: 24 frames per second, a normal shutter would be 1/50. 60 frames per second, a normal shutter would be 1/120. However, if I take this value all the way down to 1/8, you see what it does to the motion, as well as how it lets in more light. If I take it up to 1/125, it will darken my image and speed up how it captures motion. Here's a really good visual representation on how all our tools work together to set our exposure. In this case again, think of ISO as gain, and think of the number values as the dB you see in your camera. Also notice how aperture and f-stop are related. Lastly, see how all of our tools help our image increase or decrease in light, again helping us set our exposure. Lastly, our camera has an added bonus, which is called a neutral density filter, or ND. An ND filter is most commonly used to filter or block unwanted light from reaching the sensor in the camera. So think of it as sunglasses for your lens. There are 4 different ND filters on this camera: clear, ND1, 1/4, ND2, 1/16, and ND3, 1/64. The LCD screen will let you know what filter you are in here. Not all cameras have ND filters, but if you're working with a camera that doesn't have ND filters, you can always get filters to put in front of your lens. And that's all there is to it. That's how you set your exposure on manual settings for the X70 camera. Don't forget to check out our CMAC Creative Challenge. You can find the prompt on our social media. And if you aren't already, hit that subscribe button and give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for content just like this. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, and keep creating.